friends, we are at Heirloom Roses with Miss Robin. Okay, Robin, what do you do here? Tell me about your role.
Sure. I'm the manager of strategic partnerships here
Okay.
at Heirloom Roses. So I get to work with our rose selection, our hybridizing, bringing in new hybridizers. I get to do all the fun stuff.
Yeah, you get to like, I feel like you get to play. You get to like, you get to pick some favorite children and play.
Yes.
So amazing. And so Robin and I met at Bauman's a couple days ago, and you were like, do you want to come see some roses? I was like,
no, not really.
Give me 30 seconds to arrange my schedule and I will be there. So we are going to tour around. We're going to look at some roses. Robin's going to give us the inside scoop on just kind of how the process is, because I think it's so fascinating. We get the end product, but what I think is so wonderful is how much goes into that product.
Absolutely.
Like that's where the magic really happens. You know, nothing is an overnight instant, like this gets to you. This is years of research, this is extensive testing, a lot of man hours, and so we're going to show you the inside scoop. This is the original farmhouse that the Clements family lived in, and this is where they raised their kids. Wow. This is such hard work. Okay, so after that prop house, they come out here. This is stage one. They're just getting rooted in. And is this like sterile rooting mix? Like, okay, all right. And then over here, this is stage two. Look at these teeny tiny guys just in this little tiny plug. And just baby is blooming. That is so, so cool.
Yeah.
What's our time difference between these two? Like a couple of weeks?
Probably a couple
months?
weeks, yep. To go from just to cutting to flushing out. They want to bloom so fast. So you'll see tiny, like there's a little yellow one down there, a couple red ones. They're pushing out blooms as quickly as possible.
Okay, friends, this is the canning stage. So after those teeny tiny little plugs, they come out here to this next stage and they will grow on in this can. And they do a lot of pruning to make sure they have at least 3 strong branches before they go out to the public. But this stage, and you can see some are more aggressive, obviously, if you've ever grown a rose, you know, some are just like beasts, and then others take a little bit more time. But all in all, we're talking 18 months, and then these cans will actually be what is shipped to the client, the customer. I mean, this is phenomenal. So we are walking through the greenhouse right now. And if you've never been in like a hoop house or greenhouse, the temperature automatically just boof goes up, which is actually really lovely, like in the wintertime when I'm out pulling plants at nurseries. Claudia, are you noticing the smell in here?
It's coming out.
Yeah, this is gorgeous. And it's so funny because you can tell when you pass by like a really well-scented one.
Yep. That's what this entire row is about.
Oh, are these all scented?
All
Oh man, gosh. Okay, these are so amazing. And then is this like pre-canning stage?
No, this is canned.
Oh, this is canned, okay.
A little bit bigger and be big enough for shipping.
Okay.
Next spring.
Okay, so next spring. Friends, I am standing in front of what is known as the stock fields. This is literally where every single cutting of these roses come from. It's incredible. They're between flushes, so they just did a cutback and the rose is starting to flush again. And I've been told that the David Austins are that way. And if you know me, you know I love a David Austin. And Robin is like so generously giving us just all the inside scoop. And it's really interesting to see like what they're choosing, what's coming to market, what her eye is drawn to. So this is so fun for me. This is just playland. Okay. Here we are. They just had a content creator event a little while ago, and she said that they had like picnic tables out here and just so lovely. So lovely. Talk me through your testing that you do, because these don't just get planted here on accident. Like, so say you're playing with a new rose and it comes to you. What do you do with it first?
Yeah, so we don't bring any rose on site unless it's been genetically tested first. So as far as right down to the DNA of it, we've got some guys here who love to nerd out on all the details of the plant genetics.
So good.
We make sure that it's free of all diseases that are actually known. And then when it's clean, then it's allowed to come onto site, and we make several plants out of it and begin propagating if it's something that we're hoping to introduce. If it's a brand new rose that we've never seen before, we'll bring it on site, make 5 or 6 of them and observe them. We have an observation area. We'll watch them, see how they do with a lot of attention, with a little attention, how they'll do in different climates and things like that, and different watering. And then kind of pick from there. We've got so many roses to choose from. There's so many great hybridizers out there.
Yes.
So there's always something new on the market that's new and exciting and we want to look at. But we don't take a rose just because it's a well-known name brand.
Yes.
Or, you know, we just want to make sure it's clean and pure and it grows well in many zones, and then it makes our cut.
Well, and I feel like if anyone watching has ever actually looked through the Heirloom Rose online inventory, it is massive.
Yeah, we have over 900 roses.
Yeah.
Over 900 roses. The great thing about our website, though, is you can search by your zone. So when I get on our site, we're in zone 8 here in Oregon. I always choose zone 8 first. And then I pick the fragrance level that I want, and then I pick the color that I'm looking for, and I narrow it down that way.
Oh, interesting.
So if you're not sure what rose to pick, start with your zone.
Okay.
Pick all the colors you like. Pick how strongly fragrance is important to you, or, you know, height is important to you. You can do it by that as well. And then it will give you all the options that fit those criteria.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just spend, you know, all day and all night scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So,
which I've done.
Yeah.
Because sometimes
Also
fun. So the other thing that I just totally brought up to mind as we were talking is a lot of times as a designer, I know where I want to put a rose and I know where in the landscape I want to situate it. So I will sometimes search by kind of like structure first because I know that. And do you categorize yours as things that do well in a border?
Yeah, so there's, I think all of our roses do well in beds or borders. You can search by pots. So if you're looking for something that can go in a pot, you can choose that specifically.
Yeah.
But almost everything else will do great in beds and borders.
Because that is key. I will tell you, so as like a container designer, not every rose is going to do well in a pot.
No,
Sometimes you will put it in a pot and you're like, that is the saddest thing.
Yeah.
It's like you've just doomed it to a life of just, I don't know, misshapen torture.
You've got to be more attentive to the watering schedule for pots as well.
Absolutely.
That can be a little bit tricky.
Absolutely. Do you have a favorite section out here?
No, I don't think so. I actually,
or does it depend on the time of year?
When I first started working at Heirloom, I would wander the fields every morning when I got to work and cut my favorites. And I realized I was always coming back with the same rose.
Oh, you were?
And I didn't know what it was. And so I took it to our propagation team and I said, I'm always picking this. It's Betty White. And so
Betty White is great.
I now grow her at my house, of course. She's one of my favorites. Amazing Grace is also another fave of mine. Just really big blooms, really strong scent. A newer intro that I love, Madame Anisette.
Oh, I don't know that one.
She's a white Floribunda, but when I planted her, of course, all our roses come 18 to 24 inches. Yeah. And I planted her in the ground, and by the end of summer, she was 5 foot tall.
Oh, seriously?
5 foot tall. And I mean, this year I just had a cane that was way over my head. I'm about 5'6", and it was probably about 6 foot. But she smells like licorice.
Oh, really?
So these big clusters of white blooms that smell like licorice. So that was really fun.
Cool.
I like her a lot.
What are the new trends that you're seeing in roses? Because that's the other thing. I feel like florists will sometimes drive a trend. So I feel like we went through the Coco Loco and the distant drums trend.
That's
still in Coco Loco.
I'm still in the Coco Loco phase. It hasn't died. It hasn't died.
Neutrals never die. I think the neutrals are really sticking around.
Yeah.
Our #1 searched rose is pink. So pink roses are still one of the top. Climbers are probably the second most sought after.
I added a honey Dijon to my border 2 years.
Choice.
I love and sometimes you look at it and it's like brown.
Yes.
And Brian's like, why did you buy a brown rose? And I was like, because it's awesome.
And the color, as the
color's crazy.
The heat comes on, the color will change.
Yep.
There's so many roses like that the heat, Coco Loco's like that. I saw someone send us, we have Louise Clements is one of our own roses named after our founder. And I just planted a bunch of them in Waco, and they are orange here, but I saw someone in Colorado and they're coming through pink.
Oh, really?
Like a pinky orange, almost a corally color. So I think just the different climates, and you get just a little bit of different coloring variation.
The Proven Winners and we're talking about how, wait, that doesn't look like my plant at home. And it's like, I know, but mine is doing this. Why is yours doing that? Which I think is actually more interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
You know?
I agree. I think it adds more personality to what we're selecting.
Yep.
And I think it also, I find that for me, the most successful gardens are the ones that look like the people who live there. And so for me, I think of rose responding to a specific time and a place. For me, that's a selling point.
100%.
And you never trust the first flush.
Oh, really?
When you get a rose for the first time and you plant it, like my Coco Loco came through like lavender the first time I planted it. And I'm like, what in heaven's name? And then you just cut it back, and the next time she's like, oh, here's my real color. And I'm like, all right.
Oh, that is, so is it the first flush in the ground or the first flush of
Sometimes
a season?
it's of the season, but usually the first time people comment is they'll say, I got the wrong rose. And we're like, is it the first flush? Give it a second. Yeah. Ebb Tide is notorious for that. She comes in really bright pink, but then she darkens with her second flush. So.
That's a pretty rose too.
Can you tell us what is like probably your top 3 favorite climbers?
My top 3 or everyone's top 3?
Well, let's hear both. Like,
okay.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Well, clearly Eden is probably our top selling climber.
Okay.
She's pretty great. I just actually, a friend of mine just purchased she purchased 8 of them to wrap around a silo to climb up a beautiful silo. So that's going to be gorgeous.
Yeah.
So yeah, Eden for sure. New Dawn is really great. Polka, I grow polka at my house. She is so frilly and ruffly.
Okay.
Thorns like you wouldn't believe, but she is beautiful and worth it. I just stick her there and don't touch her again. She's wonderful. I have James Galway's a David Austin.
Yeah.
I grow that one at my house.
I do know that.
Stunning.
Yeah. He's about, gosh, 3 years old, and I would say 10 foot high and probably 12 foot wide already.
Wow.
So
that's a rapid clip.
It's great.
All right. So
I would really recommend though, when you plant a climber, the one thing I did differently is that and that's because I've learned it here at Heirloom, is to train your canes laterally.
Right.
So as soon as I get a cane, I bend it over to the side and I lay it straight as I can get it. We have these great things called trellis ties, which are like rubber reusable ties. I loop those all on, and then all the shoots come up vertically. So that's why he's filled out so fast.
Okay, cool. Okay. And what about, so I know that Eden can take shade, can take a little bit of shade. So it needs at least 6 hours. Is there any other rose that you can think of that can take a little bit of shade?
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's
there's some. You can actually search on Heirloom's website by shade tolerance.
Oh, there you go.
But people who think that roses can do well in 4 hours of shade, they're lying to you. It's not going to happen.
Yes, I've had people ask me like my roses they're beautiful plants, but they're not blooming. It's probably not getting enough sun.
If they're leggy, if they're reaching, there's your clue. That's your clue.
Right.
Like they're reaching, they're leggy, they're trying to get to sunlight.
All right.
That's
And also I think people misunderstand shade and partial shade. Like they can have a little bit of shade in the day, they can't be predominantly in shade.
Okay. Yeah.
They're not a hosta.
They're not a hosta.
No, they are
not a hosta.
Hashtag not a hosta.
Not a hosta.
Do you find that like afternoon shade or morning shade makes a big difference?
I don't put any of my roses on the morning shade. They're all in direct sun, so I don't know.
Heat them up. Heat them up.
I heat them up.
Yeah.
Mine are all on the west side of my house. So
I feel like in the city, you have to negotiate so many different.
Your neighbor's trees, your house.
Yes. Oh, totally. Yeah. My neighbor has like a deodar cedar that's sucking every living moisture out of my garden.
No.
I mean, I'm constantly looking for all of the unforeseen microclimates that present themselves when you're in an urban setting.
Yeah.
So I get a little jealous of the country life.
So we've actually designed this to be our test garden. So we have actually 6 different sets of gardens planted here, color themed and everything. And so they're all for our photography. And we've done some really great ways of putting pots in the ground and then putting roses in the pots so we can switch them out if we need to when we get a new variety or something. But yeah, this is going to be a really great, beautiful, full of climbers. We've tested some trellises out here. We've got a brand new metal trellis that we just introduced this week, which is really pretty. It'll be online in about 7 days.
All right.
Heirloom's own metal climbing trellis, and it's kind of like a jigsaw. You can piece it together like a Legos and build whatever, either width-wise or height-wise. It's super sturdy.
All right.
I love it because it's steel, but it's black. So it's powder coated. It'll do great with, I mean, if you have a Victorian garden, if you've got a cottage garden, anything, it's going to blend in with everything.
That is beautiful. That is one of the things. It's like people want to do climbing.
Yes.
They don't always want to get an arch or they want something different.
And you don't want to necessarily just get a wooden structure because it's not going to last, especially in the Pacific Northwest.
Exactly. Yeah. It's wet. It's so wet for us. So
the metal trellis is going to be your way to go.
Now, are you using your own perennials here in the bed as well?
These are our own perennials.
That hummingbird mint is so good. This is really gorgeous.
Thanks.
You've done a great job.
Thank you.
Do you remember the conversation we just had about roses in containers? This right here is what we are talking about. And I love that they're putting their feet to the pavement. They're doing the work. They're putting them in pots. They're seeing what happens. Let me swing you around and I'm going to show you through. Look at all of these stunning roses.
We heavily invest in our brand ambassadors. So
you could have two. You can have two install your brand ambassadors. Yeah. And then
Gorgeous.
but you have to make it also interactive. Like maybe you guys have flowers.
Sweetest little rose. Oh, look at this big kahuna. Ooh, that's an interesting green center. Look how cool that is. It's really awesome. Okay, Robin, this was so good. This was so good. My head is buzzing. I feel like you've given me so many different ideas of ones that I want to add to the garden. If you know my dining room border, she may be seeing more roses this year. And I've purchased, and here's the other thing, like before I met Robin, I've actually purchased from Heirloom Roses.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, for my own garden, for clients' gardens. When are you starting to see orders come in for that winter shipment, bare root rose season?
Well, we don't do bare root roses.
You don't do bare roots,
we only do own root.
Okay.
But the great thing about Heirloom is we ship year round.
Yep.
So you can pick what time is best for your zone.
Oh, really?
So if you're in Southern California and you want to be planting in January, February, we can send them then.
Okay.
If you're in Iowa and you want to be planting in June, we can send them then.
Yeah.
So we've got a wide variation of times when you can choose to have your roses shipped to you. And we also ship to Canada too.
Oh, that's really, okay. You know what? I have a lot of Canadians watching who are always like, I'm
Yay,
too
Canadians.
cold. I know. I love my Canadians. Oh, Canadian.
I'm Canadian.
Yes, totally. And they're like so cute. They always leave me like a little like Canadian flag and a little maple leaf. Yeah. So sweet. And so you have a wide variety, a little something for everybody. Yeah. So hot, like California, cold.
From zone 3 to zone 11.
3 to 11. That is a huge range.
Huge range, yeah. So we have a rose for every zone. And like I said earlier, if you want to look for a rose, choose your zone first on our website, and it'll show you just the roses that'll thrive in your area.
Okay, this is so good because Brian's mom, his whole family's from North Dakota, and she was like, I can only get this many roses. And I was like, I have a resource for you.
You have a resource.
I have a resource.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for spending
my pleasure
these hours with us and just touring us and giving us this insight. I find this information so valuable. Okay, and Robin is, I'm tickled. And you guys, I don't get any kickback on this stuff, right? This is just literally my love of a company coming to you, and Robin just offered you guys all a discount. Hello.
Yeah, so you can use code HELLO20 at checkout to take 20% off any rose on our site now through August 31st.
Oh my gosh. Say hello to new roses is all I'm going to say. This is so good.
And fall's the perfect time for planting.
It is perfect. Yep. It is perfection. And I hope you've all enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching. We will see you in the next one. And in the meantime, as always, please say hello to your garden for me. Bye.